Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale might be the best omnibus of all time. That's crazy. And I'm not even mad at that. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gem Mint. I wanted to make this video before I headed out for New York Comic-Con. We asked our Facebook group Geminites what their worst omnibus was, what the most overrated was. So you know we had to do the best omnibus. What's the best omnibus that you've ever owned or read or whatever? What's the best overall? That's what we asked our Facebook group Geminites. If you guys want to join in on the conversations, make sure to request to join the group, and you must answer the 3 questions so that we know you're not a bot. Anyway, so, man, 99 comments. Let's try to get through this. David Rocky, Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. That is the Batman omnibus that I always recommend when somebody asks, because if you don't know which one to get, you're probably a newer reader, and this is a good, self-contained, 3 epic stories. 100% agree. Spider-Man vs. Venom, classic, 100 out of 100. So that could be my favorite one, mostly because it has Maximum Carnage, one of the first storylines I ever read as a kid. I own the trade paperback. I love the art. I love the big, crazy, insane mashup, heroes versus villains. And man, they have the first appearance of Venom, early Venom Spider-Man battles. It is a good one. Animal Man by Grant Morrison. I mean, I liked Animal Man by Grant Morrison. Wouldn't call it my favorite. Interesting choice, nonetheless. Not an omnibus, but Absolute Swamp Thing Volume 1. Coincidentally, Volumes 2 and 3, Game Changer. I think he means the Alan Moore run, which was a great read, man. That's a strong best. It really deserves an omnibus after all this time. It would finally flesh out the timeline in Omni form, since without it, it just goes straight from Bronze Age to Nancy Collins. Cool, good answers. Howard the Duck by Chip Zdarsky. One of the funniest books I've ever read, and one of the only omnis I consistently go back to. I even got a Howard the Duck tattoo because of it. I loved it so much. Damn, I think I sold that. I don't even think I gave that one a shot. And I know Comic Tom, he always makes fun of Chip Zdarsky talking about Howard. It's Howard the Duck. Yo, receipts. All right, cool pick, man. That's an interesting one. That's one I would have never guessed that anybody would have said that was their favorite. Mine is a run, Uncanny X-Men 1 through 4. A man of distinguished taste, I see. All right, let's stick to omnis, people. It's hard not to say either F.F. Hickman omnis or Silver Surfer Dan Slott. Yo, I was just talking about how that Dan Slott, I think there's going to be a line drawn in the sand with fans who like that run versus who don't like it. For me, it's most definitely Green Lantern Volume 1 through 3 by Jeff Johns. Volume 3 is kind of faltered, but I love the ending of it. To me, GL ended there. A little edit, gotta add Infinite Crisis here. Some might love it, but damn, love the build-up and then the punchline. I'd have to give it a reread. I read it early on before starting the channel. I'd have to go back to it. That would be a top pick for me if it wasn't for Blackest Night. Didn't like the event very much and preferred the Green Lantern-focused stories. That's interesting. Atlantis Attacks, the only Omni that matters. Shout out Wesley Davidson, one of our mods, OG. Injustice, no doubt. I've read both Omnis 5 times. 7 replies. The first is strong, but the second not so much. I decided to sell the set because of the weaker second half. It's kind of a trend you'll notice with runs, right? That's why they end, because they're not good anymore. Love Injustice, love NetherRealm, love, it's Tom Taylor, right? Love combining the 2 of my favorite things, the creators of Mortal Kombat with comic books and Omnibus, so it's like 3 things. Probably Infinite Crisis. Wow, man. Stephen Wolf. Another for Infinite Crisis. Man, I might need to revisit this. The best so far is the Venomnibus by Donny Cates. It's an example of a perfect omnibus. Great story, drawing, mapping, and size of the book. Wow. That's interesting because it's not an event, right? So the mapping on that is probably much better than the King in Black omnibus. And that might be a good decision maker if someone's trying to decide on the 2 because they double dip. Uncanny X-Force, I'm with you. Definitely love the New 52 Swamp Thing. I love the spiritual stuff where Swamp Thing had to go out of his body to confront the Rot guy in another dimension. The run just kept getting better and better and further as I got into it. Will probably always hold a top 3 spot, even if I find something that I like more later. But yeah, they kept adding new like realms, like the green, the red, the Rot, all that stuff, and then new like avatars of each realm. It was cool, man. Lock and Key, cool. So not an omnibus, but they have like oversized hardcover sets. I really got into Lock and Key before the show was announced. It came out. I actually dug season 1 of Lock and Key. I watched it with my wife, but then I felt like season 2 kind of fell off. Peter David Hulk 1 through 5 were pretty good. Also really enjoyed Peter David's X Factor and the Claremont Jim Lee and X-Men Volume 2. Volume 1 was whack. I've got through like the first 3/4 of Volume 1 and I just never can power through it. And it wasn't like it was bad. It was a little bit dense. You know, I think I ended around, or I stopped reading around the Hulk 340 issue, which I liked. Just never got back into it. Maybe not the best, but certainly one that I have the highest opinion of is Uncanny X-Force by Remender. Another man of culture I see. I read the series in singles as it was coming out. I read them in singles after the fact. I had collected the whole run, but I read it in singles and I read the omnibus. I think I read the omnibus twice, if I recall. I might just be thinking about reading the single issues and then the Omni, and that's the 2 reads. But he read it as it was coming out. When he discovered the Omnibus game, it was one of the first I got my hands on. It's also one that I've read the most times, tied with Batman by Loeb Sale. Yeah. Damn, look at this. Star Wars in the house. Easily Star Wars The Old Republic. Every single story kept my attention, and it's engaging for non-Star Wars people too, in my opinion. Star Wars aside, another Omni I can read over and over is Wolverine and the X-Men Omni. I loved everything about that book. Interesting. In the most overrated omnibus, somebody said Planetary. Kenneth J. Franklin, who is the person that disagreed with me with everything, but we agree on this one that I enjoyed Planetary. I wouldn't call it my favorite omnibus, though. If you're familiar with Image Comics and comic history, the whole omnibus is a love letter to what comics have been and can achieve. Yes, it does require some knowledge before reading, but otherwise, the best comic reading experience in an omnibus format. Also, 100 Bullets, Volume 1 and 2. No notes is perfect once you get the handle on the rhythmic writing style and graphic artistry. It's 10 out of 10. Young Avengers by Heinberg and Chung. Excellent story and character development. It does legacy and diversity better than anything it's done with the big 2. It knew how to do inclusivity before it became a buzzword. Interesting. Young Avengers. I have only 10 so far, but I'd like to give it to Dark Knight's Metal. I wasn't big on the event when I read it in single issues because I just read the main event. Having the Omni with all the tie-ins made the story so much better and feel more complete. It sold me on buying Omnis moving forward so I don't miss anything, except in the case of Grant Morrison Batman Volume 2, where you missed the death of Batman. Also, shout out to the Question Omnibus. I've always wanted to read this series, but it was mostly unavailable or ludicrously expensive before now. Man, I never gave the Question a shot. I've read some Question stuff as DC was putting out like Black Label series, but haven't read much of the Question. Johnny Cortez, Batman Nightfall, all 3 No Man's Land Omnis. Batman by Loeb and Sale, and Wolverine #1. Batman has some great ones. Yeah, Batman, the 3 volumes, I did a whole read through. I felt like there were lulls in the 2nd volume. No Man's Land, I read The Road to, and I started Volume 1, and I never got back to it. Punisher, Welcome Back Frank by Garth Ennis. So that's one of those Garth Ennis Omnis, I believe. In one of those. Tobias says, even as a Marvel guy, the book I just wasn't able to put down was Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Was a deep surprise how good it was. I'm not a fan of the artwork. And the thing about it was, it's just like 3 stories compiled in an omnibus of their works together. So it's not like a complete run. Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and what was the other one? Haunted Night? Great omnibus. Is that in print? Is that like an evergreen book? I don't really pay attention to that. Let me know in the comments below. Can't pick a best, but top 3 for me are Uncanny X-Force, Venom by Cates, and Hellblazer. Read both, have not read Hellblazer yet. I actually started reading Hellblazer via the trade paperback so I could start like with issue 1 and then go to issue 300. I ended up giving up and I never got to the, is it Garth Ennis Hellblazer? Blackest Night. Yeah, so people just said they didn't like it, but I know that's going to be some people's top. Trick question. We only buy in Horde. We do not read our omnibus. It's left on the Calyx till the end of time, shrink wrapped. Very true. Actually, let me show you a little bit of love for that one. Spider-Man vs. Venom. Yo, I'm with you on that. I couldn't comment on the last 2 videos because I've yet to read a bad omnibus in my first year as a collector. Chadwick Hansen, I feel like I've seen you for more than a year, but maybe you just jumped into Omnis last year. Though that is good, it gave me an idea of what to stay away from yet. Already bought Batman Morrison volumes 1 through 3, yikes. But I would have to say my favorite omnibus I've read yet is more like a trilogy, and that being Daredevil by Smith and Bendis. Such a great read with spectacular art. Can't wait to continue with Brubaker. I feel like I read Brubaker Daredevil before I started the channel, and along with the Frank Miller and the Companion, but I didn't read the Mark Waid, and I don't think I read the Bendis either. James defending Morrison. The Batman by Morrison gets a bad rap, but for some, it's great. Some people put it in their tops, man. You got to just figure out what style you like. If you haven't dived in, give the first one a shot. If it's not for you, sell on. But I think you'll like Volume 1. I think Volume 2 is where it stops. Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews. I was mostly kidding. I kind of like that it's going to be like a joke on the channel that everybody hates or loves Batman by Grant Morrison. Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman. Was reading the first volume till 4 a.m. one night, and I didn't even notice. That's what's up, man. Yeah, that was very page-turning. Star Wars by Jason Aaron. I did enjoy that one. Second favorite omnibus by Tom Daly. Uncanny X-Men Volume 1 and Captain America by Ed Brubaker. Good choices. Dustin Gragg. Peter is one of the best in my opinion. It's just way too damn silly to take seriously, but at the same time, it's dealing with very serious themes. Yeah, I felt like there was humor in it, but I didn't feel like it was taken silly. It felt very like a serious tone looking back at it. The themes may be off-putting to some. Yeah, I could see that. I tend to not get hung up on like something that's blasphemous. I kind of like when stories go there, and I don't get personally offended or feel some type of way about it. If I don't agree with it, I'll be looking at the writer like, that's on you, bro. It's just done so well. Ennis doesn't always shine this bright. Entertaining through and through, not to mention the book is hilarious. Yeah, so okay, so he feels like it's too silly sometimes, but it's still his favorite omnibus. The Green Lantern I want to say trilogy, but really it's like a saga at this point with Omnis. Ryan Logden hit us with a top 10, man. Maybe I should have made this a top 10, but we would have been here all day. Absolute Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. I know, not an omnibus. I've been giving y'all credit for that. Green Lantern, another champion for that. Thor by Walter Simonson. Batman by Sale and Loeb. Batman by Snyder, Volume 1. Haven't read 2 yet. I think most people will say it falls off, like most of these 2-volume series. All New Wolverine by Tom Taylor. In the top 10 is interesting. Annihilation, I like. Darth Vader by Gillen was great. Brubaker, 5 Omni Saga, and Age of Apocalypse. You know, I'm not mad at that. The Omnibus Boners. Looking like Helsing. Choyo Bird, American Vampire. That's a Scott Snyder book I have not read. Gotham Central I liked. Batwoman didn't read. Interesting top 10, man. We're all different. Isn't that, that's what's fun about these videos. Relatively new to the game, but Ultimate Spider-Man is what drove me deep into Marvel and Omnis, almost halfway through Volume 2 right now, and still just as in love. A close contender is Hickman's Avengers, which is funny enough, like continuation of that story. Only Volume 1 so far, but it was a great read. Got to get back to it once I've caught up on USM. I read Ultimate Spider-Man via the oversized hardcovers. Check out that video if you guys want to see what I thought of it, about it. Eugenio Pesarini says, I'm torn between Hickman's Avengers or Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. The world building and storytelling by both is amazing. It takes a good time to get through these Omnis. And with Hickman, you just need to wait to the end to understand some things. Yes. And he gives you a lot of his graphic design throughout, right? Jeff Johns' Aquaman, however, was more simple, but an amazing read. I agree with that. It was a simple, amazing read, good art, great action with a big cliffhanger that the run just ended. So that kind of does suck a little bit. Joshua saying, I love the Hick Avengers overall, but the New Avengers side of things really carries toward the end. Yeah, I read the New Avengers Omnibus like last year, and I was like, what took me so long to read this? Check out that review if you guys want. George says, I'm going to throw down the gauntlet with the Infinity Gauntlet Omnibus. That's one of the first Omnis that I bought. And one of the first ones that I read front to back, and it was like, yo, at the time I was collecting keys. I was collecting Infinity Gauntlet #1 and 9.8. I would have gone and collected all the tie-ins just to have the entire story, and then boom, found out about the omnibus format, and come to find out they've already done that for us. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I've read the story so many times in so many formats, but yeah, then the fact that you get the Thanos quest and the main story and all the tie-ins and the aftermath as an omnibus, not even saying it's the best story. I need to check the mapping to see. I think they did do the main event right after Thanos quest and then all the tie-ins, which is not what we want, right? We want chronological. Joe Arnold says, might get some hate for this, but the group genuinely seems to hate the character, but Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson is my favorite omnibus. It's a pretty quick read, even with the 3 extra OHCs to finish the entire run. Her dynamic with her friends and especially her family are just so wholesome and really makes it feel more relatable than most characters are. May not be the most mature or gritty stories. You know what? Yo, I'm not even mad at you. We all have different tastes. Oh, okay. Yo, so if you are just hating Miss Marvel based on outside influences, you might want to give something a read. You might like it. I've already said my favorite was Miss Marvel. Oh, but I got to say more honorable mentions. So we're still on Joe. He went back to back with us. Did we give him some love? I like it when people express an unpopular opinion. I already said my favorite was MM, but I gotta say my honorable mentions are the Miles Morales Omni, getting to see Miles deal with the grief and the death of Peter, and getting close with Aunt May and Gwen in the Ultimate Universe is so heartwarming. You not only get the cool feeling of being in a new universe that you may not know a lot about, but even just seeing Miles go through his mission, starting from beginner and slowly becoming a real Ultimate Spider-Man is one of the coolest stories I've ever read. The thing about Miles, like, it's sad to see so much backlash because when Miles first came out, I was into it. I'm a Spider-Man fan. We've always had different versions of Spider-Man, going way back to Ben Reilly with Scarlet Spider, and then you have Miguel O'Hara. We always got new Spider-Man suits. Every video game, like, the goal was to pack in as many different skins. So I always looked at Ultimate Spider-Man like Miles, like, oh, another new version of Spider-Man. And I guess I still kind of feel that way, but it seems to have taken another turn with everyone else. The Complete Fire and Stone, is that the Alien Predator stuff? Man, I read those books back in the day. Every now and then, I'll still get somebody comment on that old video asking, where can we find these books? Because they're long out of print. Dark Horse doesn't have the rights anymore. We'll probably never see that same exact book reprinted. Maybe some other publisher in a different format. I'm not really sure how that works. Sashi, another Injustice vote. Daredevil by Bendis and Malieve, volumes 1 and 2. So that's another one for the Bendis Daredevil. Injustice, volumes 1 and 2. Yes, Green Lantern, pretty much all the modern Daredevil omnibuses. Yo, this is going to be a great video for people who are new into the game, or maybe people who don't have a lot of omnis and are very selective of what they buy. we can see, you know, what's coming up a lot, what's not coming up too much, maybe some interesting ones that you weren't sure on, and maybe you'll check it out. Norbert says, I started collecting in 2019 because of my every omnibus videos, and now I own around 170. It's hard to choose because the more I read, the more books I find very entertaining. So already Norbert has been in it for a few years, got a good amount of omnis. I'm trusting what he's gonna say here. So I'm seeing Spider-Man by Roger Stern, childhood stuff, surely my favorite. They Can Bury It With Me When I Die. I feel like that's a little bit before my generation, and it's why that's a little bit harder for me to get into. But if that's your childhood stuff, that makes more sense. You're probably a couple years my senior. Obviously, it goes without saying, if you haven't picked up Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, now's the time. Another one for Thor by Simonson. I gotta jump back into it. I liked what I read. For some reason, I started a bunch of stuff and couldn't finish it. Peter David Hulk, Thor by Walter Simonson, Batman No Man's Land, Volume 1. Big Damn Sin City, I loved. Loved that one. Read it for the first time in that format. And Fantastic Four by John Byrne. So this is the first time it's coming up, and I'm a little surprised. People championed the hell out of that run, and I tried getting into it. I read the first few issues. And not that I didn't like it, I just lost interest and started doing something else. Paul Lopez says Ultimate Spider-Man. Tom Daly is going to give a little bit of a bias and say Batman by Scott Snyder. Yeah, Quarter Vowels, Death of the Family, 0 Year. All of that is worth Volume 1 for sure. A lot of people can't give the number ones, but another top 3, Ven Omnibus by Cates again, Injustice again, Infinite Crisis again. We're seeing some trends. Another, Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale might be the best omnibus of all time. That's crazy. And I'm not even mad at that. So that's Joshua Carlier. I like that last name. It's got so much swagoo in it. It's dripping with swagoo. Carlier. His Marvel pick is Thor by Simonson. Damn. X-Men by Jim Lee Volume 2. Got to give this up because it's the greatest comic style artwork in my opinion. Isn't that the one that I gave a bad review to? A viral bad review. My omnibus reviews don't always go viral, but when they do, it's because I have a bad take. Never owned an omnibus, never liked them, prefer normal volumes. Banned. Oh, now it's got me commented on my government. While Invincible is not an omnibus, it's one of the most entertaining stories I've ever read. I felt the right emotions at the right points. It really hit well with me. Not to mention, it has the best art I've ever seen. It has stakes that matters. It has the actual passage of time. It's got universe expanding ideas. It is an incredible story. I love Invincible. That might be my favorite. Nah, I was gonna say my favorite non-omnibus, but man, you got Spawn deluxe editions out there and stuff. JSA, maybe. Interesting. Another Green Lantern by Jeff Johns. I love the fact that Volume 2 Blackest Night is mapped properly with the Green Lantern issues placed correctly. Take care and peace, everyone. Well, thanks for the kind wishes. And does DC have the mapping down? They might not come out with as much content, but are they putting out more quality in that sense? I see a lot of Marvel books that people skip. Alias was actually really good, man. I actually read this digitally when I used to take the train to work from West Palm to Miami. And I loved it. And I bought the omnibus shortly after. I had just got into the Omni game. And I bought it just because I love the story. I never read the Omni, but I had read it digitally and I thought it was great. Conan Omnibus number 4. Pirate Conan is the best Conan. I say Conan. Comic Tom says Conan. It's like Conan O'Brien. Yeah, it's not Conan the Barbarian. It's Conan O'Brien and Conan the Barbarian. You got to throw some Nan on it. Shout out to Trick Daddy. Just started reading a few months ago. But it's got to be Gotham Central for me. Reading Infinite Crisis right now, so we'll see if that tops it. So Gotham Central was a great read. I got to revisit Infinite Crisis, man. This video is brought to you by Ninja Funk. Ninja Funk is already celebrating their 1-year anniversary, and they're having a huge event at the Ninja Exchange in Carlsbad, California. Not only will there be a live signing with co-creators JPG and Steve Shuett, but they're bringing out legendary artists Jim Lee and David Mack. But that's not all. We have special guest John Dolmayan, the creator of Essentia, founder of Torpedo Comics, and happened to play drums in a little band called System of a Down. If you're in the area, make sure to come swing by on November 18th and 19th for the celebration. All right, guys, that was a great post. Thank you so much for all the comments, all the replies, all the participation. Let me know in the comments below on the YouTube side, what do you think the best omnibus is? Can you give me a top 3 if you can't decide? I'll take top 5s, top 10s. I think we're going to do next, what's the most underrated omnibus, man? We did overrated, let's do underrated, and I'll take suggestions too, man, if anybody wants to see what the omnibus community in our Facebook group thinks. Drop suggestions down below. Hope to check you out at New York Comic Con. Thanks for watching. Stay minty fresh. Peace.